For this meeting, we ask for your guidance. Help us to make wise decisions, to speak with clarity, and to listen with open hearts. May your wisdom lead us and your peace settle upon our discussions. Guide our minds and our actions in this moment that we may fulfill the purpose that you have set before us. And we pray for our country tonight, Lord, over this beautiful nation. We pray that nothing happens to this country that escapes your watchful eye. Father, we ask that you heal this nation right now that is hurting so much from all of the discord and the social unrest and the evil that has been happening in this land over the past week. Father, we just ask for your peace upon this country, and we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well done. Thank you very much. All right, that's items 1, 2, and 3. Item 4. Jeannie, do we have any adjustments? Hold up. Okay, thank you. That brings us to our consent agenda.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as is.
Second, any comments, questions, discussion needed on any of the items in the consent agenda? Doesn't sound like, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, consent agenda passes. Off to the regular agenda. We consider an act on the district's draft fiscal 2025-26 operating budget and recommended water rate structure. Eric, I think that's you. We're wrapping up something we're pretty familiar with.
We are a couple of adjustments we made to the budget that you saw last month. Really in response to the Bear Branch Dam and some things that are going on with that. So
That's the money we authorized to proceed forward a bit, right?
well, there was last month's meetings, there was discussion at both the stakeholder MUDs and the non-stakeholder MUDs as to who might want to get involved or participate. So there was some of the non-stakeholder MUDs that showed interest. That kind of escalated into a lot of debate, particularly in the non-stakeholder MUDs. And I felt like it was, we couldn't be debating that while the engineering's sitting there waiting. And so we needed to move forward with that. Add in the presentation at the township meeting that kind of went sideways. That that led to a Houston Chronicle article. It didn't sound real good. A lot of the facts are still kind of need to be clarified. On that note, Aubrey and I will be going to the township meeting on Thursday to clarify some things. But I felt like it was important to get the engineering locked in, which the engineering for the service spillway that was the original scope of the project was just over $700,000. This was already in place. That's already good to go. To address the auxiliary spillway, which was, what the recommendation came from the engineer, additional roughly $500,000 is necessary for that. And so that is the major change in this budget. And so if you look at on the white side of the paper, down toward the bottom, GL code 5480, you'll see that $252,000. That is your share of the engineering of all phases of the dam engineering design. And that's per the pro rata splits per the agreement that's already in place. So that's the main change that occurred in your budget. We added a little bit for GIS, but it was a couple $1,000s. It didn't really change anything. The big change was that 252 number.
And that's our 50% contribution.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, exactly. You're like, yeah.
So was the 131 in November also that, or is that something else?
That is annual maintenance, your share of the annual regular maintenance. Yeah, that was in your draft last month. It was not in what you got Friday.
Correct.
It,
But it's here.
it came out and put back in, yeah. So what that creates is about a 15.4 month reserve in your accounts, leaving the end of next fiscal year at about 10.5 million. So I'd say you're doing pretty good. This obviously did include some large ditch repair. Ironically, y'all didn't have a lot compared to some of the districts, had some significant stuff to deal with. You have some stuff, but we talked about that last month. But that's in there to do what we call the level 3s or the high priority issues. That's in this budget too. So that was all I had on that. This budget does include the tax rate that you published. So that's a couple items later. You'll
That hasn't changed, right?
correct,
Yeah.
unless you choose to change it, then we would need to change this, which will affect the revenue side of it.
Seats.
What, sorry?
The bond proceeds, yes. So something that Brian brought to my attention is when 47 sold bonds back in 2019, I guess, right? That's what
Yeah,
this letter is. The way that it was described to me is the district was, you were doing the 1488 project, but there was just a little bit of authorized bonds left. And I think you capped off this bond issue with some of those remaining authorized bonds to the tune of 1.67 million plus engineering. That doesn't have contingencies on it, but it does have engineering that's also added. So you're looking at probably almost $2 million, probably 1.8 or $9 million of available funds that was delineated to be used for water, wastewater, and drainage ditch rehabilitation. So we need to think about that as we, contemplate the ditch work and also contemplate what your eventual share will be of the dam improvements as well. So I think you're sitting in a good position because you've got those bonds that you could use, for either. But the construction dollars we're not anticipating needing for the dam. So only thing that you have there is the engineering. And then when the project gets engineered, then we will look at the construction dollars necessary for each of the MUDs in next year's budget. We'll look at that.
So what may end up happening in business with Eric, you typically try to use your funds that have the most restrictions on them first, and then save the funds that have the least restrictions on them and use those last. Also, we've talked about the arbitrage compliance, issues and excess earnings having to go to the IRS, what have you. So that's another reason to spend that.
Which we already did. We already made a payment on that, didn't we? Like last year, I think, or
Set aside, I think.
We did pay already.
Right, we got an interim report, so we set some money aside to pay future expected liabilities. But what may happen that will potentially result in your actuals looking different than what your budget would be is on that back page, we could potentially use the bond proceeds, water service repair of 168, sewer maintenance, sewer repair of 172,000, large ditch repair of 610,000, storm sewer repair of 244,000. All those together still don't add up to what you had in bond proceeds that can be used toward those funds. So this budget is built on you using general operating funds, the funds with the least restrictions on it. But what we probably do is actually pull from the construction capital projects fund and pay these, which would result in you actually having a surplus at the end that you could then use those funds to pay for the dam.
So
Because-
Brian, real quick, we removed those. They're gone.
Okay.
So what you got Friday had them in it, and what was passed out tonight
Or it hasn't taken out.
did
Okay.
what he just described. Yeah, which is basically assuming that we could use these bond funds to do
Yeah.
ditch work. And
Yeah, I wasn't seeing what we were.
Okay, I've got the old one. I put it
Okay,
off the
good.
top. Okay.
Yeah, so the one that you, that was available, on Friday on the back had, excuse me, there we go. Had 610,000 for large ditch repair and 244,000 for storm sewer repair. And now that number on the one you have tonight, for reference, is 170,000 for ditch repair and only 19,000 for storm sewer repair. So the idea would be you could use those bond funds to pay for the ditch repair, and then whatever's left, we probably could use for the dam too.
Yeah, we may be able to actually pull off this 168 and 172 for water service repair and sewer repair based on the language of the
point.
TCEQ authorization. So bottom line is you're going to have a large surplus as a result of us being able to use those other bond proceeds, but really that's going to be set aside for the dam project.
Still good news. I mean,
Great on all fronts, yeah.
do we run into any of a timeline concern on the rest of that bond authorization, which was for the projects that, we've gone through one of those projects. I think we're not even in a payable situation yet. When do we time out? And
We always say use the funds as soon as you can. I mean, you have to have the reasonable expectation at the time you issue the bonds to use those funds within, I think it's 2 years, which the district had at that time. Of course, circumstances changed, COVID, we've talked about all that, which changed the reasonable expectations. But because they are taxes and bonds, you need to make every effort to use those funds. Now, you don't just come up with something that's not justified, but to the extent that you can, like this, where you have an option of using either project needs to be done, you can either use operating funds or use construction, do construction every day. This one's simple because the projects that we're talking about are within the previous authorization from the TCEQ, so we don't have to go back to them.
Right.
But for a lot of projects, if you have extra bond proceeds that were initially generated for one use, but then something happens and it changes, you need to use it for a different use, then you have to go to TCEQ and get their approval to do that. So we can have that conversation later about whether it would be worthwhile to prepare an application to the TCEQ to use some more bond proceeds for the dam project to continue to spend that down, and that may be a good idea. But we don't have to decide that today. But
Okay.
short answer is
Yeah.
as soon as we can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
But we would need motion and approval of the post budget.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the draft 25-26 operating budget as submitted?
Yes.
I'll move that.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. Budget adopted as presented. Mhm. Okay, on item 12, we're going to consider an act on policy RNS 12, rates for water service.
So each year, there's some adjustments that are on the RNS 12. There is no proposed rate changes for your retail water sewer rates. But recall, the GRP rate was going down by 5 cents that we learned about.
Right.
So this is to document that. And so need approval to approve the RNS 12 to document that 5 cent adjustment.
I move we approve the RNS 12.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor approving RS 12?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Wasn't there 5 + 1, or was it 4 + 1 that got us there? Was 5 the final number for the GRP refund? What I think,
No, it was 4 + 1.
it was 4. Okay, there was 4 and then there was 1, not 5 + 1.
Right.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
but due to the settlement, there may or may not be additional, and then we'll cross that bridge.
Gotcha. Okay.
Don't know yet.
Okay, item 13. We're going to conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy the 2025 tax rate.
Correct. So we do need to adjourn the regular meeting
Okay,
and open the public hearing for any comments regarding the district's published tax rate. And Jenny, we did publish that in the Courier, correct? And the rate that was published was,
0.16068.
okay? And what was discussed, so only the total tax rate was published, but as a reminder, what was discussed and recommended by the financial advisor was 4 cents to debt service and the remainder, the 12 point so-and-so, to maintenance. So there being no members of the public present to provide comments, we can close that public hearing.
okay.
All right.
Hearing closed.
Move on to the next
Continue
item.
on with our normal business.
Yep. So next item is to consider a motion to levy the 2025 tax rates comprised of 4 cents debt service and 0.120684 for maintenance tax, total of 0.160684.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the district's 2025 tax rate?
I'm going to adopt.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Okay, motion passes. Item 14. Item 15.
Item 15, adopt the amendment to the district's information form. So that's the document that is required by the water code to be recorded in the property records. Has a lot of factual information about the district, including your tax rate. Also attached as an exhibit to the form is the notice to purchaser that people receive when they buy property in the district. They usually get it when they go under contract and they get another one. So that reflects the tax rate as well. So we need to adopt this amendment to update the district information form and the notice to purchaser attachment to reflect your 25 tax rate.
I move we adopt this amendment.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. You. Okay, good job. Now we go to item 16. Receive the regular SJRA Woodlands Division report. Ed, I think it's all you.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Report looks a little bit different. It starts on page 30. So we've added some commentary at the front, giving you just a quick summary of what's transpired over the month. We're at 50-50 blend on the water, surface and ground. And then Woodlands Division is celebrating 50 years of serving the Woodlands muds. And so there were some videos that were generated, and you can see the cast of celebrities that were videoed. And you can find those videos on Facebook if you decide to go look. Some of them are pretty interesting. At the bottom of page 31 is the annual water loss, and I mentioned it last meeting, this is combined between WWA and SJRA, because we meter it at the well and then they meter it at the customer and everything in between. We're a little above what we budgeted. We budgeted for 4%, but we've had a few leaks. And so
We have an idea of why it's ticking up. I mean, it says unaccounted for, which means it's not measured or
correct.
even estimated. Does that go into that bucket if it's not even estimated or?
We can tell, if we know we've had a water leak for some period of time, we can estimate how long that leak has occurred and then figure out based on pressure what it might be.
That would be the accounted loss, right? It would be in that line.
That would,
Versus unaccounted.
flushing we can account for.
Okay.
Leaks are harder just because it depends on whether it's a pinhole leak or whether it's an all-out line break or whatever.
Yeah.
But so that's where it falls on the unaccounted for loss. And so we've had a few leaks, few breaks. If you'll go to page 32, this is our regulatory stuff on the wastewater system. On the left-hand side is our permitted flows and when the permits renew. I've mentioned that all 3 wastewater treatment plant permits renew in May of 2027. So we'll start May of 2026 preparing the draft and then submit the draft to TCQ because it takes them about 6 months to process. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the charts for the flows at the plants. And then down at the very bottom in the small print, we're checking your eyesight to see if you can read that. That's some more of your regulatory requirement.
Hey, Ed, could you speak to the new laboratory vendor
Yes.
and what's going on there? If you would, please.
What I know is what I read in the newspaper.
Okay.
The lab, North Water District Labs. We just recently contracted with them. They are providing our testing of our wastewater and our groundwater, or the water in the potable water system.
Mhm.
What we understand is that they had a client that was represented by a certain operator. And that operator was asking the lab to alter the results. So it didn't look like they were out of compliance. And so the president of that lab resigned. And then the state is looking into the operator that was making the request on behalf of their clients.
Were the results modified?
That's what we
is that what
understand.
was reported?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We've just started working with them. I saw the article, talked to Chris and said, let's just kind of watch it and see. We do enough of our own interim testing to kind of cross-check some things. So it'd be pretty easy to tell if things are going awry. But we're not asking.
Testing, were they modifying the result?
It could be some of the wastewater tests where you report to the state if you're meeting your E. coli limit or if you're not.
These.
Yeah, all of the things that are listed down there at the bottom. And then on the water samples, whether they have adequate chlorine residual in the water or not. We're required to have a certain residual. We work pretty hard to make certain it's at least that minimum residual.
Yeah.
And it basically is a supposition on my part. If you're having to ask for somebody to alter the results, that means you don't want to spend money to fix what's wrong with your system.
So this seems like an isolated
Yes.
incident as far as.
Isolated to that one
To that,
operator.
yeah.
And certain clients he was representing.
Yeah, and somebody inside.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the bottom of page 33, you can see work orders, the hours spent doing preventive maintenance on the work orders, and then corrective maintenance. And that was just some information that was requested. We did have somebody ask for a 5-year trend, and so we're trying to pull that information together.
That went out. I got it in my email. Looking at it here, and it shows a fairly flat preventive work, maintenance, work order hours, and the number of orders. What's good about it is it shows a decline in
Trending
the
down.
corrective maintenance.
Good.
All right, so your preventive maintenance
Is
is
paying off.
leading to less reactive maintenance,
Mhm.
right, or corrective maintenance. So I thought it was good
That's a good
information.
sign.
Yeah.
And then the next couple of pages, excuse me, are related to the projects. And then you get into the surface water program report on page 40. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Additional questions you may have.
Any questions for Ed? Well, congratulations on the 50 years and
Yeah.
big milestone.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel it.
Getting all choked out. Well, recognizing the Woodlands just had its 50th anniversary last year, this is how quickly you all came in
Mhm.
and
Right after that.
became the water operator. It was a
Yeah.
very early decision by George Mitchell and the company.
And then last year we celebrated 50 years at Lake Conroe.
Yeah. Good.
Lots of 50s going on.
Okay. All right, on to item 17, where we discuss and or act on the water line renewal plan and analysis completed by HDR engineers, which we had just had a meeting today.
Yes,
For
and
some of us.
to remind everyone, last month, the trustees asked SJRA to work with WWA to come back with some recommendations. So Ed and I have been, and SJRA and I have been looking at that. Today, we had a meeting with some of the directors that have had some lingering questions. And we really started digging into some of the specifics of some of the projects that were recommended by HDR. In particular, not specifically looking at the tiers and that type of stuff, but looking at within each of the projects, what's the real scope within those projects? Because, as you can imagine, the project scope as lined out by the condition and the breaks and everything else doesn't always come in a straight line. It could be that there's fingers coming off a bit different. There's a break over here, so let's go over, so you might make some decisions to, fix the immediate core project and then reach out and grab a couple pieces where there's other breaks or the condition's bad. And so they had made that, and that was the recommendation that you had seen. But the directive was to try to look through and see if there's any ways to maybe carve down some of that scope. And so we actually did some of that today with some directors. And what we came out of that with was that as we were requested, or as Trey was last month, come back to the MUDs, the trustees, the October meeting, make an initial presentation on recommendations there. Also present at the MUD meetings, or at least go over that, whether it's full presentation or the video, I don't know, but we'll at least talk about it at the MUD level. And then try to get recommendation from the MUD director, the trustee in November on which direction to go, which will lead SRA to be able to then put those projects into the 10-year project plan, which will then lead us to be able to go through and kind of do the financial analysis to say, okay, what's the result to the customer and how do we want to approach that? So it's all kind of systematically piece by piece by piece, but felt like we had a real good meeting today. And I think we have a path forward. So.
I would say some of the kind of breakthrough, and some of the other directors had said we reached a real turning point, right? Is that in your way?
Yeah, I can't look at you. I can hear you well. It's behind you.
Okay.
Oh, thanks,
There it
Dan.
is. Thanks.
Getting me.
Yeah, it is better. Thank you.
I felt it on my.
A real turning point.
Yeah, I would just say that it was discussed, and kind of at the end, a real turning point for the whole group to really find a path forward. And I really learned something of how HDR kind of worked and their methodology. And that's what they laid out to us, and through a GIS system where they could show us where the breaks were, show us where the projects were. And that's what created Project 1, Project 2, Project 3. But we really didn't know how all those pieces got in there, right? Until they explained it to us. Once they did, that made a lot of sense to how we could then move forward. And so what we're going to be doing in October is we're not approving, fixing any of these, or we're putting them in the 10-year project. We're kind of approving a process, I would say, and an approach to how this will be an evergreen process where SJRA can now maintain the same GIS data, update it with new information as breaks or testing occurs. That may move a project forward or backward, but there's some kind of obvious no-brainers that get done, and there might be some pieces around them that we do, and all that will just be rolling forward as part of an annual process, I think, is what we're hoping that we kind of get out of this, right? So I think they're going to send out a recording of the meeting we had today, so all the screens that we were staring at, you can kind of listen to it. And then in October, if we can get our arms around it, approving that approach, then November we can kind of get them to, they can now have a 10-year project plan that has the water lines in it.
That's it.
And then we go off to the races from there. So I think it was a good outcome.
More to come.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for those guys? Okay, good. Okay, item 18, discuss and or act on the Bear Branch Dam modification project.
Kind of talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So the engineering you just passed in your budget, we've got 2 more MUDs. 3 of the 5 stakeholders have already had meetings and approved their budgets with that engineering in it. So I expect that will continue tomorrow for the other 2. And then the engineering will be set, and then the full engineering scope can be started. And we'll present that to the township on Thursday. And then that will give us some time to figure out the rest on the construction.
Did you get the email from our constituent, Mark Unland? I think he probably sent it to everyone today.
I haven't seen it today. I've been in meetings all day. I don't know.
So what it has to do with is, putting together the monies from the Mud 67 project with the Bear Branch Dam project and doing something to increase the capacity. I think we've discussed it before, but to articulate a response that why we're not putting those two projects together, I fail. So, like,
I think you told me one time that we couldn't, if we decided not to do anything on the drainage project, we couldn't transfer it over to the dam, is what I remember, because it was earmarked specifically for that.
Part of it.
And it doesn't necessarily go into, the dam isn't really a drainage project altogether. So that's the way I understood it. So I read his email briefly, and I didn't have much time before I got here.
Yeah, the project was approved, you're talking about the downstream project with the widening of the channel, was approved by the Texas Water Development Board, and they, and 67 issued bonds pursuant to that approval. So if, in the hypothetical situation that a solution couldn't be reached for the additional funding for that project, then if either one or two things would have to happen. Either one, the 67 takes the bond proceeds, pays back the Texas Water Development Board zero interest loan, refunds back pro rata amount of all the participants' funds, and that's the end of it. That's what's been spent today. Or
and then we can use the money to spend on the dam. Would be how it would have to work.
Or the 67 would have to apply to the Texas Water Development Board to see if they would allow for a change in use of those funds for the dam project as opposed to the downstream project. But that issue has not been really pushed until we figure out if there's a way to get funding for the downstream project that was originally intended for.
So this could work. We could do something. We don't know yet, though.
There was also the concept of I guess, digging out the bottom of the dam and instead of increased capacity, it was in the dam itself. But it's probably silted in a bit, and if you cleaned it all out, you could,
That doesn't create,
Flow would be the same, right?
that doesn't create detention storage.
yeah, this is part of the thing,
That just adds to the depth of the lake.
one-time increase.
Correct.
If you didn't get it, well, one of us will send it to you, Eric.
I haven't seen it. Okay.
Yeah, I think it came
So
last night, this morning, I don't know, maybe today.
What was that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was today.
Houston.
Send it on to you just in case. Is that it? Are we square on that? We got a question. Do you think we'll get all the MUDs to participate? Or do you think one or two may hold out? What's your best guess?
I am optimistic that we can get all five. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just hold to that up.
Yeah, good. I think so too.
I think I've got a plan that's palatable. It may not move the needle much, but it could hopefully get us to 10 participants.
Well, already we have a lot of more participants than we did, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we got two. So, I mean, there's two strong participants for sure.
Who's the holdout?
You don't know.
No, really.
Let him have his meeting.
Yeah. We'll get there. We'll get
Yeah,
there.
okay.
But the point with getting the engineering separated from that argument, that debate is let's let that go forward. And then we can start tackling the participation on the larger piece over the next couple of months. I mean, it's really not a rush necessarily. So we'll be working on that.
We're about half of it, so we got, right?
Yeah, and I
We
think
got a big piece of it, so.
Yeah.
everyone's share will go down,
Yeah.
with at least a couple of the bigger players.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be positive.
Good.
I'd like to get all 10 participating as partners.
Yeah, maybe a good story too. Okay, thanks for that. Item 19, an update on Bear Branch, Panther Branch, and research forest dry drainage.
So last month, we talked about going after the core for the CAP program. That application was submitted. The next step was for us to get letters of support. So each of the presidents, we've prepared a letter of support, as well as we're acquiring some from township and other local groups. So that's just kind of the next step.
Yeah.
So that's in.
Yeah, just signed it. Yeah, yeah. Any questions on that, Norm? Okay.
We're gonna have another meeting anytime planned.
No, I think not until we really know anything more from the core at this point.
Okay, now item 20, consider an act on payout application number 2 for the retail wastewater collection system rehab.
For that, we don't have one that was submitted.
Okay.
So this is for approval of pay estimates for the construction progress of the sanitary sewer rehabilitation project, and we just don't have the next pay estimate.
Next month.
Depends on the contractor submitting when he wants to get paid.
Yeah.
Ideally, we do these monthly,
Yeah.
the cadence I'd like, but it's kind of at the mercy of the contractor who's paying to submit that request. But I will say the contractor is continuing to move forward and hit various repairs that are scoping projects. Okay. They're still going.
Okay, good. So on to item 21.
Engineering report, so we just added this as a
Yeah.
placeholder so that as things progress on the 1488 project, they can put those items on this agenda and come to us if the district needs to concur in any project designs or awards or pay applications. So we're just going to keep this on here
Keep
going
it on.
forward.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, but there may not, if you don't see any specific projects listed on here,
okay, good.
it'll be a deferral.
Okay, all right. Then we're on to 22.
I don't have anything additional we haven't already covered.
All right, thank you, Brian. GM report, Eric, anything else?
I'll kick it to John, in a sec, our engineering report GM report begins on page 48. As you can see, we continue to try to include quite a bit of information on what we're doing in all the districts. And we'll likely be including some of the ditch work that we do now that the budgets are starting to get approved. We'll start moving forward with some of that stuff too. So, that's really all I had. A lot of the other items we've covered were the main things on my list. So with that, John.
Good evening, page 62 for your communications report. We're now in the fourth quarter of our strategic plan, so we've shifted focus of water conservation into value. You've got objectives from the strategic plan there to get a better sense of what we're trying to achieve in this quarter with that focus. Bear Branch Dam piece is coming out soon. We'll make sure you see that. Infrastructure Renewal Communications Community Working Group is going to meet for the 6th time on the 23rd. So they're going to hear from HDR. It's going to be virtual. That was the only way we could get HDR to be able to present. So yeah, that's happening. What is that, next Tuesday? There's a presentation coming up next Thursday, the 25th, 6 p.m. And on page 63, you've got a QR for it. That is, USGS is going to be presenting their annual summary of water table data, looking at water table levels in our region. It's Jason Ramage, he's a hydrologist from USGS. If you want to attend that live, you can do that at HARC. You can watch it from your couch live with that QR and that Zoom link there. We are also going to have that recording available for you as well.
You need to RSVP with Hark, and that's Thursday night next week.
Thursday at 6.
That sounds kind of interesting.
Oh, it's always, every year, it's very interesting and it's well attended. It's lots of maps of subsidence and water table drops.
And then finally, on the bottom of 65, you have our current outreach calendar. So Eric is talking tomorrow to the Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce here in town. And then I'll be out at Landscaping Solutions on the 27th. That's a very popular event. If you haven't been out there, I highly recommend it. Great landscaping and gardening and sustainable water use and all kinds of great topics out there. A lot of giveaways too. So that's at the Rob Fleming Recreation Center on Saturday morning, the 27th. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Trustee report.
Two main things, about an hour-long presentation from, Aubrey and Mitch, the attorney for STRA, to talk about the settlement agreement with the city of Conroe. And then also the trustees approved the, WWA budget. Those were kind of the two main things on the agenda. As far as the settlement presentation, that's in your packet. I think Shelley sent out the electronic version of some attachments of that, and then we have some printed versions here too. There will be an action item for us over the next year to contemplate, or some homework to do on related to the settlement, but and particularly the global amendment, I guess is what it's being called. So I encourage y'all to read through that. It really changes the dynamic of how GRP members would look at their relationship with STRA going forward, and how expansions are, will be looked at, whose shares of what will be looked at, those types of things. So I encourage you all to read the global amendment.
I just ask a global question. There are MUDs right now that are on 100% groundwater that are in the GRP, and they're paying a surface water conversion fee. What happens to them in this whole thing? I didn't understand that.
Well-
Because they have an interest in the future, right, of getting surface water, and the plan was to expand. What happens?
Well, first of all, they're paying a pumpage fee, not a surface water fee. Slight difference.
It's a pumpage fee paid to you for the GRP.
Towards the GR surface water conversion. And that was part of the requirement of them participating in the surface water reduction or groundwater reduction plan. What happens to them going forward? Because there's no regulation, they have a contractual obligation to continue to participate.
Going forward, they do as well?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that is in the settlement agreement that I can recall that might, well, actually, this is good for them. There's a provision in there that waives an import fee on any water that they might import into their district, as long as STRA cannot provide it. That fee is waived. We are trying to work with MUDs that are east of 45 that have expressed interest in receiving surface water. They're a participant, but they have not been receiving surface water. So we've got a couple of requests that we're addressing. We think there's a way to supply them, and we're just running the feasibility traps.
From what I've read, it seems like they have to now build the pipeline on their own dollar because
That's
it
correct.
can't affect our.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's a negative impact to our current ratepayers. Now, once they build it, we will accept it for operation and maintenance.
Ongoing.
So they don't have to deal with that part, but they have to put up the upfront capital.
That's rough.
And if regulations change, then, or if regulations come back, not change, but come back, there have been provisions in contracts that allow us to reimburse them for putting line.
Interesting. All right, thank you.
The GRP has a year essentially till the end of 20 or to January 1 of 27 to get the global amendment
Correct.
passed by 85% or so
Yes.
of the
And that will be
users.
the Woodlands Division making that or answering that question. But we'll likely be talking with the MUDs to ask your opinions to direct the division, Woodlands Division, on how to respond to that. Because the contract is between the Woodlands Division and GRP, not a particular MUD.
What's the timeframe on that come to us?
January 27th.
Prior to.
Prior to.
So they've got a year. They've got until then to get it done,
Yeah. And
or you fall back to the secondary amendment or whatever it's called. Right.
if it doesn't pass, then there are certain provisions that happen with only Conroe.
There was a question about the Conroe's term of their agreement going from 80 to 40 years, and it now is aligned with kind of everyone else. It was kind of an outlier before. I thought that was good information to hear.
Mhm.
Anything else on trustees? That was the bulk of the,
Budget.
yeah, the budget. I think that's it. All right, I don't assume we need a recess, do we? Item 25, so therefore we'll reconvene. Any comments? Nope. And do we have any future agenda items that anyone would like to propose or offer? We have a few kind of looking at coming down, so, okay. We are adjourned.
Right.